I think we're live.
Oh, we are. As I yawn. I'm like, oh.
Hello again, folks. Denver Green Party. My name's Jason Justice. To my right, literally, no, not literally, but to my right on the screen is Dr. Desmond Wallington. He is back from a busy day of performing unnecessary surgery, and he's here to join us.
Yeah. Oh, very superficial and cosmetic for sure.
Well, thanks. The gray hair transplant you did on my beard has worked beautifully. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you very much for that. So
You are welcome.
we're going to jump right in. It's probably not going to be quite as long a session tonight. There's a few things we want to touch on that are happening in the beautiful Queen City of the Plains. Look it up on Google it. Anyway,
Yeah, we're the Queen City.
we are
I, I, I present company excluded, of course.
hey, just in time, a little disco music too.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, little
Oh
dance
no.
music.
What's
Woohoo!
why does
So
your
weird. I have a tab here that I'm going to put in the live stream, and it's from Nine News, and it just keeps
oh
it just keeps playing because
just pop up ad?
yeah, just
Okay.
popping up. So anyway, why don't you go first tonight, Des, and tell the beautiful people what's going on.
Uh should we start with like the mushroom
I
stuff?
think we should start with this is
Okay.
we promised good news. So
Yeah.
there's good and bad news here.
Yeah, yeah.
But good news is coming. More good news is coming.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the article, the post.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me let me grab it.
Um
Mm.
so there's a rabbi. His name is Ben Gorlick. He's 42-year-old rabbi, multicolored mohawk. You know, very very orthodox, traditional. Individual rabbi. Um, I guess he has his own psilocybin church congregation. That he's going. Um, from my understanding, that he had to kind of self surrender. Like there was a warrant out for him, but seems to be a really interesting setup he had. Because Denver first in the nation to decriminalize psilocybin. It's kind of created this kind of it's really kind of brought in a lot of attention, and you have to kind of explain to people the difference between decriminalization and legalization, right? Legalization means that there's a market for it and you can buy and sell, and that there's some sort of um, you know marketplace to do this, to provide psilocybin to people. I used to get like a lot of questions like, can we buy psilocybin at like dispensaries or and that type of stuff. Um, but he created the spiritual group called the Sacred Tribe in 2018, and now I guess it's got about 270 members. And he holds like a weekend long retreat, where people can come in, and I guess he mashes them up and like mashed potatoes or something, and like serves them to people. Um, and you can just kind of hang out, and there's some sort of like religious ceremony, that he provides. Um,
With the mushroom gravy on the mashed potatoes.
yeah, the brown gravy, right? Uh, it's not. It's that's different from like the brown acid at like
Yeah,
Woodstock, right?
Woodstock,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Woodstock. Google it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Um, but I guess this has created like maybe this kind of when you're in like the Denver Post and like a lot of major publications, it kind of brings maybe some unwanted attention your way. And it's pretty bold of him, to kind of go out into the media that way, right? But I guess he's kind of in this gray area of, are you paying for the ceremony? Are you paying for the sacrament or the medicine, for during these weekends? And if people are actually paying for the psilocybin, that's where the legal trouble, comes in. So I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing because, there was a similar thing that happened in Oakland not too long ago. I'm friends with that guy on Facebook, after he was arrested. But I think he had the Mushroom Church, and if you ever Googled the Mushroom Church in Oakland, it's a really humorous picture to see. Because of the getup, it's like all the Catholic regalia, but and more phallicized,
Okay,
kind of thing.
time out
Yeah,
right there. No, I'm
yeah, I
kidding.
know. Yeah, I know. How dare anyone tarnish the good name of the Catholic Church?
I know.
Yeah,
Gosh, they
yeah.
are completely clean of
Uh,
sin.
Yeah, but I guess it went beyond a personal, quote unquote, personal amount. Even though I don't think like the city council has officially kind of weighed in on the limitations of how much um, psilocybin a person's allowed to have. Um, they just finished a study group maybe a month or two ago about where they were kind of examining the impact of decriminalization of psilocybin. Um, I think your city council person, Chris Hines, is on that, Jason. So you might need to write a very strong letter of support. On that.
He's so good.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, um, Yeah, he's a nice guy. I
I
I, I,
agree.
I I ran into him once at one of the Black Lives Matter thing, and I just saw him coming out of the Capitol. I yelled at him, "Mushroom!" I call him Mushroom Man Hines. He really likes it. He really likes that nickname. Um, but it's it's kind of harkens back to the Mayans and their ceremonies and in the religious context of it. I'm not saying the rabbi and the Mayans or there's any sort of religious overlap between the two, but it's a um, it's within the tradition, right? And people want to participate with this substance in a religious context. And I guess he's doing God's work, right? To some degree. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, how he's pushing the envelope, pushing the boundaries with this, and kind of seeing, the potential ramifications that he's kind of taken out from coming out and being a maybe quote unquote micro celebrity. Like, that we got canna celebrities, the people who are really big in the cannabis community, mycology and celebrity, my celebrity. So it'll be really interesting to see, what comes of this. From my understanding right now, on a statewide level, there's kind of two competing um, ballot measures that could be, on the ballot, this November. Um,
Statewide, right?
yeah, statewide. One is just kind of it's based out of Boulder. It's like my understanding, it's only like a half a page, like what legislation that kind of decriminalizes psilocybin. It'll decriminalize mescaline, not peyote because there's those kind of religious protections for the American Indian churches, and ayahuasca, and Jason's favorite, ibogaine, which is what they give people, to get them off heroin or opiates, kind of thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm actually more partial to I believe it's the Bufo alvarez frog from the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah, that I,
His
I had
stuff,
I've had experience with that one. That is a very powerful experience.
yeah. If you the deal is with that is that you have to lick the toad.
No, you
This is
smoke it.
something. Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
am.
yeah,
I haven't. I
yeah.
haven't kissed a frog since I was trying to find Prince Charming.
Yeah, and we kind of have to wonder, like, how many animals did we go through before we found that toad, right?
You got to lick
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
animals. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
A lot of
Like,
reptiles.
yeah.
That is just.
Or like, here's a mongoose, like the anus of a mongoose, like, like how many?
We're
I,
not kink
I, I,
shaming. We're
no,
not
yeah,
kink
no
shaming.
kink shaming
Anyway,
there. And then the second measure, which probably kind of has a little bit more likelihood of going through, is more like 18 pages long, and it's got kind of the backing of Dr. David Bronner, the soap guy, Dr. Bronner soaps, eccentric hippie guy. He's got maybe a little less money than Oprah, and he's just, just throwing his money out there to decriminalize psychedelics for whatever reason.
that's great.
Um, so it'll be interesting to kind of see as these two ballot initiatives go through the signature process. Um, it's about 250,000 signatures required to make it onto that ballot. One has Dr. Bronner's money behind it. The other one's just going to be, kind of ragtag group of your local neighborhood wooks, trying to, organize this and execute this. So it'll be interesting, but if this goes through, hopefully, and this rabbi does get in trouble, for it. Hopefully there's some sort of expungement or criminal record cleaning, you know, uh, component to this, right?
Yeah, it's a class one felony,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest you can get. It's mandatory jail time, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And so and it could be a lot of jail time. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if they still schedule marijuana as a class one
Yes.
drug.
Yeah. Schedule one still.
Yeah, schedule one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that includes heroin, cocaine, mushrooms, LSD,
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
Meth. So, yeah, there's, wow, who would have thought that we'd be talking about mushrooms and the idea that drug laws have a serious amount of white supremacy that is a thread that runs through them. One of the things I absolutely support this because I know that psilocybin has a therapeutic effect at low doses for people that may be suffering with depression or addiction or a multitude of things, right? And so I'm all for it.
High doses. You want a macro dose. You don't want a low dose.
Yeah,
That
you want a
bullshit. Yeah.
microdose. You
You
don't
want a
want
macro dose.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's this idea that well, and right now it is in FDA trial, right, for
Right.
psilocybin, and they anticipate in 2024 or so that once the clinical trials, I think they're mostly being executed by Johns Hopkins University. That
Mhm.
once they conclude that research, that they'll petition the FDA to probably reschedule it from, Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And probably MDMA will be the first one to be rescheduled, in the next year or two.
Yeah.
That as that one goes through MAPS. So, it's not, there is therapeutic value to it. It's physiologically, impossible to become dependent or addicted to psilocybin. You can't, if I use psilocybin tonight, take 6 grams and have, go visit my buddy God, and I do the same thing tomorrow night, my body physically can't produce the same amount of, psychedelic experience. Like, you kind of have to have like a 11-day break from it at least, for all those neurotransmitters to kind of reset, to kind of have a similar experience, which is, the difference from like heroin or, methamphetamines, right? Like, those things you can kind of do all day, every day, and
Right.
and you still kind of get the same kind of subjective, euphoric or pleasurable benefits to it. So, it's not like this guy's trying to he can't get people addicted to it, kind of thing.
Right.
So it'll be, but I was at a shindig this past weekend, and someone told me that, there was a warrant out for this individual's arrest, and he eventually had to self-surrender. So solidarity to that guy. I hope that they let him maintain like the mohawk coloring while he's, incarcerated and everything. But we gotta have these people to push the boundaries. And after the 301 campaign, that was in May in 2019. On September 11, 2019, there was a person named Cole Milner who was arrested by for growing and distribution, and he was looking at 20 years. He had no like prior history or anything like that, and by the grace of God, he was able to kind of. Oh, there's your pop
No,
up
it's
ad,
so
buddy.
stupid.
He's been able to get out or out of that, but he had to move back in with his family in like Kansas City or somewhere, um, and he's got like a big ass fine hanging over his head. So,
All right.
so that's the latest with the mushrooms. That's all I got.
All right. Well, that's cool. I think that there's a good chance that if it gets on the ballot this fall, that it will pass. It's something that will appeal to leftists and also to libertarians, and you know, and I didn't even say anything nasty about them, but it will appeal to them as well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's got a good chance. The time has come. Let's get rid of the white supremacist drug laws in this country and move on. So, and let everybody, do their thing the way they want to do their thing, man. Anyway, so all right, next item we should talk about probably is the $14 million settlement that was awarded to protesters over the George Floyd rallies, summer of 2020, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And this is great. Um, they've already given a couple of the city council just gave a couple of protesters. Let's see, how much did they give them? They approved settlements with 2 protesters without going to trial. And let me put that link here for you to check out the whole story. There's a lot of information in here for you about this. The thing is that sorry,
They asked for $17 million, right? So
they asked for 17, right?
they got 14, about 80%. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is good. Of course, the city will appeal it. So it's not over yet. This is a very good sign.
Yeah.
I'm also going to put up here, and so that I can shut this damn pop up, is the 9 News story about the response from this guy who is the head of the Denver Police Union. He seems like a really nice guy. His name is Nick Rogers. Um, yeah, he looks like a sweetheart. Probably, has never done anything out of line as a police officer. And so I'm going to put that there as well. And now I can get rid of this thing with that keeps giving us the disco pop-up commercials.
It's Elizabeth Epps was one of the plaintiffs in that. Interesting.
Who? Yeah, is
Eliz-
she?
yeah.
Yeah.
She was trying to get on for the 5th congressional district by petition. Missed it by that much. He was like 17 off.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah. The thing about this is that that day that the unrest started off with a peaceful rally in the morning that was controlled by liberals who were trying to keep everybody on the sidewalks, don't take the streets. And then they had worked out a deal with the police, allegedly. I don't, actually, let me walk back a little bit from this.
If
What
you,
I understand is that we were all on the sidewalks marching around, and one of our Green Party comrades that was with me, she was like, "Why are we not in the street?" And I'm like, "Go, boo! We're going in the street." So we started going out in the street, and of course, the whoever was there monitoring the group was trying to keep us on the sidewalk, and um, that doesn't get the goods. So people started getting out in the street, and they had it pre-planned that they took the crowd into the street, up into downtown, back down the 16th, back down. Um, I think we went up Lincoln, came back down Broadway, kept us off of the 16th Street Mall because Lord knows we cannot disrupt commerce on the
yeah,
16th Street Mall. I mean, come on. This is a protest. This isn't, we're not, somebody in the chat is telling us to run people for office. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. The deal is that um, after that finished, I came back home because I lived pretty close to there, and then some of the protesters were standing in the middle of the street on Colfax with their hands up, and the police were across the street, and of course, giving them the orders to disperse. And the protesters were there with their hands up, hadn't done anything, hadn't thrown a rock or anything. And of course, the police go in with tear gas and flashbangs.
rubber
And
bullets.
yeah, and this went on that night. I believe it was the Saturday night. There was a lot of shit jumping off down here.
Uh-huh.
The lovely smell of tear gas was
Yeah,
of C4 was wafting through the windows of our house.
yeah.
There were a lot of groups converging down there, not just the police, not just us, the leftists, the anarchists, Denver communists, socialists. Um, you know, I'm not going to use the word progressive because they were home. asleep. But definitely people that are concerned about police violence, and so what ends up happening is that people were, police were waiting in alleys, jumping people as they came by, and so these folks they got a good settlement and for that. And the make no mistake about it, Denver police drew first blood, and
Yeah.
here's how that could have been different in those days. There were, thousands of people converging on the state capitol and on the Civic Center Park. Thousands. There could have been 10, 15,000 people. And the thing that didn't happen was that group wasn't led straight to the city and county building and demanding that the police, with a list of demands. And this is just because there was a lot of, compared to the Ferguson uprising uh, 4 years ago, it was a very different thing. There was a lot of liberal white people. They just wanted to be there so that they could be supportive, which is great. But nothing came of it. And the only thing that, and of course they were upset about the violence. Well, we never start any of that. It's not the people protesting against the police that start this. It's always the police. Always the police. And if this Nick dude, who's the head of the freaking police union, is like, we held the line. If it hadn't been for us, they would have destroyed downtown. And it's like, no, if you had met with us, other than some touchy feely, getting the police chief out to go in a prayer circle with a bunch of people. If there had been demands and if those had been met, then there wouldn't have been any violence. And all we're asking for is that the police don't kill and wound and maim and unarmed people, unarmed black men who get pulled over for, I mean, everybody knows what goes on in this country. That's all they have to do. They don't have to do that. And here's the other thing about this whole deal, and then I'm going to stop my thing, is that we keep over and over and over again in this town paying taxes, in sales tax, in property taxes, because don't forget, you're a renter. Part of your rent is going to property taxes, goes to your landlord. Landlord pays property taxes. So you've got a stake in this as well. We constantly have to pay so that a bunch of thugs can run rampant in the street with impunity and hurt people that are unarmed, that don't have body armor on, are not carrying guns, none of that kind of thing. You saw, and there are articles that you can Google where they they found a bunch of guns, and they put this in the Denver Post and in other places. They found a cache of guns in somebody's car, and they were like, "Oh, it's the left," and it's like, no, it was a couple of boogaloo boys that
Mm,
did that. We're
yeah.
not the ones that show up with the guns, right?
Yeah.
It's always the
Yeah.
police, and it's
And
always the
we
right
have
wing.
like a really strong Atomwaffen group in Denver, right?
Yeah,
The Nazi people, right? The
right,
white
right. Yeah,
supremacists, right? Yeah, and they're always the ones that kind of come up and stir the pot. And I guess you have like if you are a victim of the police violence in these protests, you have a couple of years to file a lawsuit. This isn't. This is just the 12 protesters, right?
right.
For them, so get on it. And I uh, I was there at the protest for several days, and I took some video of it from the far, like where the what street is that? Uh, Across the street from the Capitol, and it's on the Green Party page. If you go back through and look at our videos, you can kind of see, the melee, I guess, right, of the cops just kind of coming in and just kind of sweeping and being very aggressive, with people who are just hanging out and, trying to, exercise their constitutional right to assemble and protest and all the stuff that we're supposed to be able to do, right? So
Right.
I encourage people, run for office, run for the Green Party, sue the city, get some money, and then we'll help you, launch a really awesome campaign.
I think I'm going to just address just 2 seconds on someone in the chat was telling us to run people for office. So what a lot of people will say things like, how come you run a presidential candidate? This last time, of course, it was because Trump was such an existential threat. Um, yeah, they said run as, so maybe encouraging others to run too. So yeah, so I'm going to get to all of that. The deal is, we have to run a presidential candidate for ballot access in a lot of different states.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's also, I mean, Colorado, we have automatic ballot access, right?
Yeah.
But in other states, Oklahoma, you've got to pay $60,000 to get on the ballot or collect 60,000 signatures in a 2 month window. New York, the former governor Cuomo just upped it to 240,000 signatures they needed something. It's a really crazy number,
Yeah.
right? And they've always been there. And of course, Howie Hawkins, who was our presidential candidate from Syracuse, New York, has run for governor there. The last time he ran for governor, he got 5% of the vote, and they were moving an anti-fracking measure as part of their platform. The Democrats were forced to adopt the anti-fracking thing in New York. Cuomo even signed that. So yeah, good things can happen. The problem with local and statewide politics now, you've got to have strategy, you have to have a campaign, you can't just stand up and say, I will don my costume and stand on the street corner and declare myself, I am running for Grand High Overlord of the universe from the Green Party. That doesn't work. People don't take it seriously.
Mm.
That's why you haven't seen us running people statewide for a couple of years, because you folks out there deserve something more than joke candidates.
Yeah.
You deserve people who are serious, right? And so why am I not running? Well, I'm an ex-con. I'm not going to run. They would eat me alive. Also, I could not keep my shit together if I was in the same room with Michael Bennett. That guy is a scumbag. Anyway, but wait, that may be slander.
but
Not a very nice guy.
yeah, that was kind of the kind of the weirdness, I guess, maybe about the Green Party.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, right? We'd have like these kind of eccentric yahoos,
Right.
who would, or I want to be senator, and and then they're running, you know, traipsing around the state in like a frog costume, right?
But they're not even doing that. They're not doing the work to build the
Yeah,
party. They're
yeah,
not, they don't give money to the party, none
yeah,
of that kind of thing.
yeah.
So
They just
so
want
we
they just
we
want like attention,
right, right. It's just
and
attention seeking behavior
yeah,
from disaffected Democrats, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so in this state, in this party, we've adopted we're eco-socialists. So socialism is controlling the means of production. At least this is what we voted into our platform. Socialism is controlling the means of production and add the eco onto it with an eye towards eco justice, right? Because we're in dire straits, y'all, with climate change. It's 70 degrees in Antarctica yesterday. So this is, I hope that this goes a little bit to answering your question. We have found some good candidates that we've run. But
School board, city council,
yeah, city council, school board, but it takes organization, it takes people, it takes bodies, it takes coalitions with other groups like DSA and other electorally minded groups. And so, right now, with these live streams, what we're hoping to accomplish is to show you that there are people like you who are concerned about what's going on in the state, in this country, in the world, who think like you, who are not a joke, who take this seriously. The good doctor and I, you know, the good doctor has been on the winning side of getting psilocybin not legalized, decriminalized here in Denver. So we've got people working on ranked choice voting, of course, and I probably shouldn't out the who people who are Greens that are working on ranked choice voting, but there are some significant people in that movement who belong to the Green Party of Colorado. They're really good people. Here's the thing, y'all. It takes more than 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 people, and unfortunately, in the past, it's just been kind of a joke. We don't take this as a joke. This is life or death for people. Us being a viable resource electorally for you, us being able to voice our opinions about, with the Green Party's platform in mind. We're a non-oppression party. That means that we support everybody. Human rights are for all humans, right? and yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the way that we feel. It's not we're going to pick and choose. Human rights are for everybody but trans people. Human rights are for everybody but the LGBTQIA community. Human rights are for everybody except for people that are undocumented. That shit don't fly with us. We're righteous in the way we feel. Maybe it seems like sometimes that when you're part of a group like ours, that you are. I think there's a ghost flying around behind me. Cool. There's an orb. Anyway, the that you feel like you're alone in your views, that you're pushing a pebble against a hurricane. But you know what? At the end of the day, you'll feel better about it. And that's why Des and I come on here. That's why we, carve out time. So Des, I'm sorry. I know I went on for too long.
It's okay. No, yeah, exactly. And just because we don't have people necessarily running for office, like Jason said, doesn't mean we don't have people who aren't working on more like ballot measures and legislation change. Right. And as far as like their the ranked choice voting stuff, another kind of you want ranked choice voting because that kind of frees people up to look beyond the blue team and the red team, and you can kind of get a more people are afraid of or are allowed to vote who they want to vote for and not feel like they're throwing their vote away. And it also kind of helps to open the door for more proportional representation.
Absolutely.
So we can have kind of more like in Denver, like if we can maybe if you live within a congressional district, there could be like a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, and a Green, who can, who are viable candidates, and some combination of those people can actually, represent you, kind of thing. So,
Right.
they're, the system really isn't designed for, diversity. So, if once you kind of change the groundwork and the rules and, who makes up the government, then that really helps to kind of build power, in the meantime. But
And
you do kind of have to, just kind of take a step back and at least say, I'm probably never going to get what I want from the Democrats, and just stop beating that dead horse to death. And for the most part, Colorado is a one state party, for the most part. And that if you look at like Texas with Republicans, and Colorado or in California with Democrats, whenever there's one party in charge, right, it's never, things never work out well in either of those states, right? So we do need more kind of political diversity, as Colorado kind of becomes more and more blue.
right. And so that's long story short, that's the answer to the question there that about running people. You know, if you come to us and you have the same values that Diz and I share, and and that's
Showing
great.
it just,
You
yeah,
don't
showing
have
it
to agree
is,
with us 100%
yeah.
on everything.
Uh-huh.
That's great. But if you come to us and you're like, I agree with like most of what you say, except for illegals, and also, did you know that the Russians are trying to sap our precious bodily fluid
Yeah,
through fluoridization of the
yeah,
water?
yeah.
Then we're going to be like, we're going to just take a hard pass. Thanks
Yeah,
for stopping
yeah,
by.
yeah,
Good luck out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
tinfoil. They sell it on the corner
Yeah,
at any
you know,
7-Eleven. So,
and that was part of the party's issue too, right? They like a decade ago, they didn't really vet people
no,
very well, and
no.
they just ended up with all these kind of fringe people, kind of
Yeah, and
um
people that really believe in white supremacy and are very
yeah,
sexist, and
yeah,
yeah, you deserve a safe place to be and organize, and a place where you're not going to be confronted with oppressive language and microaggressions.
yeah.
That if you're, that's just
Okay.
that's what I think.
Well, let's
Should we get on? Go ahead, man.
talk about the macroaggressions of the homeless people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of microaggressions, we're going to put this thing up about. I'm sure you've seen in the right of way. The right of way is that area in between the sidewalk and the street that it, from what I understand, the city and county is going around and putting rocks there,
Yeah.
and so that homeless people can't sleep there. And this article, it's the dude that owns Sexy Pizza, which is like 2 blocks away from me. One of them is the one they talk about in this
Uh-huh.
article. Um, yeah, I mean, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Diz, what do you? And so there's an article here about him talking about how he was homeless once, and I've been homeless at one time
Mhm.
30 years ago, and so this is I just it's the most inhuman shit. And
And we've seen those pictures, right, of like in urban areas, right, like under like the highway underpass, where they like put spikes, down there, kind of thing. And the joke is, right, like whenever it's like a Democrat in office, like the spikes are rainbow colored, kind of thing. Just this kind of,
right,
very, you know, just kind of this. again, we don't get to pick and choose, kind of thing, and the whole tokenism behind that. Like, yeah, we're going to, celebrate diversity and sexual orientation, but if you're a gay homeless person, which is disproportionate, amount that, we're just going to make it so there's no place for you to take uh to have shelter or anywhere to rest. Yeah, so it's outside the Sexy Pizza, a couple blocks from your house. I've been to that Sexy Pizza. It's
Yes.
just a little hole in the wall,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, and Kayvon tried to mount a campaign for mayor a couple times, never really kind of panned out. Um, and I get it, and it makes him look bad because it's outside of his restaurant, right? And now he has to like kind of go to the press and like speak out against this, right? I feel for the guy, on this issue, right?
Right. This we talk a lot about the houseless crisis, and it's a national crisis. Obviously, it's bad here in Denver. The last live stream, I think we put a bunch of articles in there. Go check the last live stream, the comments, because there are a bunch of articles about how much houselessness has increased. It's epidemic proportions, and these aren't just folks that are suffering from maybe dual diagnosis, addiction, and mental illness issues. These are just people that live next door to you who may have gone through a they lost their job or whatever, and they were evicted. There's a lot of hostile evictions going on in this town right now.
Mhm.
Buildings will be sold, and then the new landlords evict everybody. They just
Yeah,
kick everybody out so they can raise those rents up. I think there was an article last time a woman had a $650 a month rent, and they bumped it up in 1 month to over 1,000. And
yeah,
I don't want to call this genocide, but this certainly is class warfare on a gigantic level, because this is affecting people who are working class, and that are trying to pay rent on minimum wage, that they need 3 times as much to be able
yeah.
to afford an apartment now in this
I
town.
think I posted an article like within the past couple week or two about they're trying to like it's very minimal, like gestures they're making, like they've taken 5 properties, right, and they're trying
Right.
selling them for like $10 to Habitat for Humanity to
Right.
generate low income housing, which is great. We need more low income housing, but
But five.
5, yeah, yeah, um
And this
you,
is the liberal playbook, right?
yeah,
Oh, look what we did. We put 5 families into homes. Everyone go to brunch.
yeah,
We've
yeah,
won.
yeah,
And this
um
is such bullshit, y'all.
yeah, I know. And you see all these kind of empty apartment complexes throughout the city, just not anybody full. I went to lunch with someone the other day, and he said, like, I'm kind of nervous. Like my lease is coming up, in this summer, and they haven't raised my rent, in 3 years. But when I moved in, the building was empty, for the most part, and now it's kind of filled at capacity. So he's really kind of like, I don't know, like
Right.
what's going to happen, if I'm going to be able
Right.
to afford to live here, anymore.
my parents are 80 and 81, and they're very concerned about that. They live in a retirement building, and they're very concerned about their rent going up again. How are they going to absorb it on a pension, on Social Security, and the so this is affecting. I mean, people from every walk of life that you can imagine. And so
Yeah, the most
I
vulnerable people, right? That's
most vulnerable,
yeah,
absolutely. And so that's one of the things that we stand for. Obviously, we need to do more work on our city council people, to lobby the Colorado delegation, to the legislature, and about rent control and that kind of thing. But you know, we're going to need some help on that. So look at the Green Party page on Facebook in the next few days. We'll put some ideas together and post them there. Some names, some phone numbers, how you can get in touch with people, and we need to start telling them this is unacceptable. One of the things that liberals love to do is to turn these over to the nonprofit industrial complex.
yeah,
The nonprofit industrial complex has never seen a problem they can't make a dollar off of.
yeah,
And so we need to tell these folks, okay, we need more concrete movement on this. You need to provide trash cans if people are out there. You need to put at least porta potties up, treat
hmm
people like human beings. They're not even that what the city is doing and what the police do. They're hoping the police, first of all, they only come in to sweep people and to tell people to move along, with that. But we need to tell these politicians, that no, you need to come up with a little more concrete action here. We've been talking about houselessness since, I mean, for at least 30 or 40 years. I mean, I know of people that have been on the streets for 30 years, and it's heartbreaking. But anyway, all
yeah.
right, that's such a high note to end on, huh?
I know, it's so sad.
Yeah,
It's just yeah, and you drive through the city, and I've had people come from out of town to visit me, and they're like, "Oh man, I went out for a run or went out for a walk, and just to see the the tents and everything, and you kind of like have to like apologize for it and try to you know say yeah, it's things don't necessarily, everyone on the city council is a Democrat. This happens here, kind of thing. So we kind of have to kind of look beyond, you know, the status quo, I guess, and just kind of maybe come to accept that Democrats aren't going to fix the problem because it doesn't behoove them financially to do anything else, right?
right. Well, I think we've been at this for about
Yeah.
54
Yeah.
minutes. I thought it was going to be shorter.
Wah, wah.
I know, I know. But I think that my parting words are to keep the faith.
Yeah.
It's uh, obviously societal problems are huge right now. Not to mention the fact that there's a nuclear war kind of Armageddon hanging over our heads right now. Um, yeah, I mean, it's easy to it's easy to do one of two things: to dig yourself into a depression that's so great you can't do anything, and then the other side of that is to just pretend like it's not happening and everything's good. The slapper around the world. I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about it, but
I
and,
know.
and so uh, uh, which I've got some opinions on that, and they're all about self-defense. And yes, and not talking shit to black women about their hair. Anyway, I
Yeah, yeah.
digress. But the so it's a I know that it can get difficult, but just just know that there are other people out there that feel the same way you do, and would love to talk to you, and would love to to meet you, to shake your hand, to talk with you. So reach out to us on the Denver Green Party page. Reach out to us on the denvergreenparty.org. All the links are in the description over here. We'd love to talk to you. There are solutions, and together we can figure them out. Des, you got anything else you want to say?
Um, that's you summarized everything perfectly, buddy. But yeah, if you feel like your passion's for education, we can figure out, what a school board, you know, run would look like, and if you're kind of more civic minded, we can figure out city council, kind of campaigns. But yeah, we definitely, we are kind of tired of the status quo, and a lot of people on the city council are about to be termed out soon. So, the sooner we can get this going, the better off, right?
Mm-hmm. And there's a mayoral race coming up, so
I
we're going
know.
to be watching that like a hawk.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that we're done for the night. My name is Jason Justice from the Practice Dungeon, uh, and this is my good friend Dr. Desmond Wallington,
Yes.
and you've been with the Denver Green Party again.
Yes, yes. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
XOXO.
All right.